Well, hey everybody, welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. I am Kathy Holmes, delighted to be here. You've had quite a few encore performances in the last little while because, of course, summer has gotten in the way, and I've been enjoying the outside. I hope you have been as well. But today we have a couple of people in the Zoom booth that you need to hear about because there's an event coming up that is going to be so spectacular that you really need to know about it. So in the Zoom booth with me today, I have Cailey Foster and Johanne Kemmler. They are with the Cowichan CAT, and we're going to talk about Purple Ribbon Day. So welcome to the program, everybody. Hey, you guys, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having us. It's fantastic to be here.
I
Yes,
really
happy
love
to
it
be
when
here.
you
Thank
come.
you.
Thank you so much, Johanne. Sorry, I interrupted you, Cailey.
Oh, sorry, no, just happy to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you both here. You know, the Couch and Cat does a tremendous amount of work in our community to really sort of put a focus on mental health and addiction. And a whole lot of agencies come together to support the good work that's being done within our community. I wonder, either one of you, whoever wants to go first, can you tell us a little bit about the origin of the Couch and Cat and why it's so important?
Well, our cat was created many moons ago now. I can't remember the year. Cailey might remember, in response to a alcohol-related death in a prison cell. And at that point, the government wanted to know what was in place in Cowichan to help people who were in addiction or drinking and what there was. So they created a small task force at that point, and they actually created our recovery room that is still running at Warmland Shelter. So that was the very beginning, and it's growing. There's still a few members from that very first time. I think there was 12 of them, and now we're 250 members strong and still creating spaces.
Well, and I joined a few years back, and as part of, I was became aware of it at the time that Epic was happening within the Cowichan Valley, and trying to find solutions for older adults within the community. And so I learned about the cat at that time. And you're right, there wasn't nearly as many members, and I didn't realize there were 250 members now. Who make up some of the membership to the cat?
We have service providers from all over the region. So we have our RCMP, bylaw officers, Island Health, Cowichan Mental Health Association, Lighthouse. Oh, Kaylee, who am I forgetting?
Well,
Yeah, well, so it is a lot of service providers, as well as community members who either care about or have a loved one um, uh, who's affected by substance use. And so we also have RCMP, I think you mentioned, Health Authority, FNHA, who all sit at our table with us, and peers, people with lived and living experience of substance use, really help guide the work that we do because we strongly believe that we can't tell people what they need. We have to listen and learn from folks who are living it. So it's a very diverse group.
I love the concept of having the peer involvement. Could you tell us, Kaylee, a little bit about how the peers started to get involved and really the evolution of where they are now? Because they really are so insightful and have done so much incredibly good work within the community.
That's a great question. So when I joined the CAT, there had been some work with peers before that helped shape the projects that we've done. But there wasn't really like a group that was regularly attending meetings or could be called upon. And so my goal was to build that. And so I had the opportunity to go to our sheltering sites during COVID and meet a lot of folks who were unhoused and who were also struggling with substance use. Not everyone there was, but some of
Mhm.
the folks were, and they were talking about what their hopes would be for treatment or for even just staying safe and alive. And then we began working together. And something that I noticed is that people they want to give back,
Yes.
especially some folks who have been most affected and had a really some really profound struggles. The moment they're on their feet, they're saying, what can I do to help people who are still struggling? So in the shelter site, the folks I was working with started an outreach team where they were going out to people who were still on the streets and sharing snacks and support, to letting them know about resources that are available. So that's when I first kind of noticed that with all sorts of different capacities, people want to take part and give back. And so we began getting peers to come attend our CAT meetings, and then folks who had gone through recovery and who are living on their own began hearing about our CAT and wanted to come take part. So we had people who were farther along in their recovery journey taking part in the CAT, and then so it just kept growing and growing and growing. And now we have peer leaders who lead their own groups um, of people with lived and living experience of substance use, and they have topics and they bring back what they talk about to our CAT. And so it's really grown into this beautiful group that's become very empowered.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, there's so much desire to help and give back. So I just feel like it's just been snowballing over the last few years, and it's been lovely to be a part of and watch what people do when they're given an opportunity.
I really think that you're leading this charge so well. I think that you're very specifically, Cailey, you and your presence and the way that you are with these people. Have really had the privilege of watching you grow and develop over the last few years. And, I really feel that your inspiration has really pulled these people together. And I think your leadership is what keeps it going as strong as it is. And the part that I love the most is that there's no judgment. There's no negative connotations that go with this. You're actually sitting with people and being with people and letting them share their stories. And that in itself is something that simply isn't done enough. And that's why Purple Ribbon Day starts to become really important, right? It gives us an opportunity to share the stories of people because there's so many myths out there. Can we talk a little bit about some of those myths between Joanne and Cailey? Like, they're pretty frequent out there. There's some nasty stuff going on. Tell us a little bit about what you think about the myths that are out there now.
Well, I think a big one is just that it's a choice, and people, put themselves in this spot, and they can, make a decision and easily get themselves um, out of the issues they're facing. But we know now that there's substance use disorder, so it's more of a brain issue. It's not just a matter of someone making a choice to
Mhm.
use or to not use. And so there are all kinds of supports and interventions that can help people, but there's not just one answer. I guess that's
Yeah.
another thing I want to share is that there's not a one size fits all solution. We need a lot of different interventions and ways to support people
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
One of the
Joanne,
myths
go
that
ahead.
one of the myths that I find really disheartening is that if we did things right in the beginning, we would have nobody in this kind of trouble. And that is that is a myth. There is no rhyme or reason for who falls into drug or alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
And we just have to support everybody and not judge that they should have just fixed themselves years ago.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece. I think that a lot of people have this belief that addiction is a choice, it's a decision. Somebody's gone too far, they could quit if they want to. There's no rhyme or reason as to why someone falls into addiction, but there is science to show where it becomes a brain injury in some cases, not all cases, but certainly in some. And you're right, it's not a one size fits all. But people are also with this misconception that everybody who's on the street is a drug addict, or everybody that's on the street is an alcoholic, or everybody that's on the street is a. And what's your take on that? Because we know it isn't true.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I guess we can just look back at data is always uh,
Yeah,
a good thing to look at. And so the highest number of drug poisonings are people who are in private residences.
yeah,
And so that tells you something right there is that there's a lot of probably hidden substance use, or people maybe not understanding their prescription and doubling up, or all kinds of different reasons why it may happen. It's not just the folks who are really in the forefront when you're walking down certain areas of town, you see these people, but that's not even the largest group that's affected by the epidemic.
No, no, that's so true. From the stats that I recently read, it's like 17% of the population that is homeless uh, are people that are addicted to some form of something or another. That percentage is relatively small in the big picture of things, and it's a misdiagnosis to say that everybody on the street is addicted, because we know that that just simply isn't true. There's a lot of hidden homelessness. There's a lot of reasons why people become homeless. We know that many people, older adults, are becoming the largest group of people that are now homeless, many of which are over the age of 75. For the first time, they're finding themselves on the street, and most of them are not addicted to any substance whatsoever. And so there is a huge discussion that needs to be had about, about how the unhoused population exists. But same for mental health and addiction, right? We know that people that are addicted to substances, as you said, many of them are doing these drugs at home. Many of them are prescription drugs. And again, a large proportion of people between the ages of 35 and 55 are using alone. And therefore may not be, they could be just doing what they think are harmless. The doctor gave them the drug. But we know with especially the opioid crisis, that isn't the case. They're very dangerous drugs. And so when we go, I want to take us back to the peers, because the peers have been really instrumental in helping to educate the community on what this truly looks like. And I'm curious about the journeys of some of our peers, right? Do you mind sharing a little bit about how they came to the place that they are where they could become peers?
Yes, yeah, I would love to. And that's what is so fascinating is, as we were saying earlier, there's all kinds of different ways that people might find themselves on a certain path. And so every single peer, their journeys are so diverse. And so there's three or four in particular, I'll just choose a couple, who do a lot of public speaking. And the reason why I like to pair some of these ones together is because they're so different. There's
Yes.
one individual who says, I had a great childhood. I can't think of anything that was really traumatic. The first time I tried a drink or a drug, a switch was flicked, and they said I knew I just needed to have more of that, to do more of that, and it was just no turning back for them. So it really was, as we were talking about, like just how it affects the brain, that little switch was flipped, and so um, they found their way to recovery. And now, yeah, they're giving back, speaking to youth. And that individual, I can't remember actually how they found their way back to recovery, but but I can speak to another individual who says that for them, their journey is like basically a pipeline to substance use issues. So they were raised in the foster care system, moved around many, many, many times, had a lot of traumas within there, undiagnosed mental health issues. So they were acting out. And then using certain drugs, alleviated those symptoms, and
Yeah.
they were kind of self-medicating. And so they found their way to recovery through our sheltering sites that we opened up during COVID, where they had a chance to actually speak to a doctor and a nurse every day who would pop by the site and see how they were doing. And there are some prescriptions available to help people deal with withdrawal. And so they had a lot of success with that. And now they're, living a really healthy life and working with our cat. And they were working with our cat when they were still using substances. There was something for them to do at that time. And now here they are doing public speaking. And it's just beautiful to watch that journey and see how healthy they are now.
Yes.
And just one other quick one that I think is so important for people to know is another one was simply one of our wonderful peer workers had an accident and had a serious, they hit their head and were on some serious medications.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the turning point that
Mm-hmm.
that ran out and they felt they still needed something. And
And
maybe it was drinking, and then it led to drugs. And they also found their way to recovery through just having supports around them. And then when they were ready, reaching out. And so that just, I like to share a couple of those because it just shows the different ways that people kind of found themselves with substance use struggles. And each of them found their way out. And it's really lovely to see. And I think I remember the first one actually, how they found their way to recovery. And so the similarity for all of them was just that the help was there when they needed it.
Yeah.
And they were surrounded by people who cared,
Mm-hmm.
and were just there for them, whether they were ready to change or not. And so that was a real key, I think, for them was the community for all three of those people.
Absolutely. And community can come together in such an efficient way to be able to support up multi-level care, right? That wraparound service for people. And so I'd like to, sort of touch on that because Joanne, you work a lot with the agencies and the individuals, through the CAT team. And how is the information shared so that we can provide those wraparound services?
well, that's always ongoing, of course, but I, as the coordinator for the CAT, send out newsletters,
Mhm.
and there's lots of information in the newsletters about our different organizations and what's going on, so people can pick it up from there. It's getting known that my email is the one to reach out to and ask questions to, so I get questions like that. But in general, we have created our CAT as such. Cindy Lise is one of our other coordinators who's been involved from the very beginning, and she's created a real culture of care and a culture of, in Cowichan we do it this way. So in Cowichan we share, we talk, we pick up the phone, and all our service providers work pretty hard to work together. And that's not the same in all communities, unfortunately. And we have glitches and little bits that go off the rails here and there. But in general, we talk, we create, and we try to provide wraparound supports for people. And I think in all, it goes pretty well.
Yeah, it's true that not all communities are the same. And in the work that I do, I've been blessed to work with a number of communities throughout the province of British Columbia. And Cowichan continuously stands out among all of them because it is a very, there's no stovepipes or whatever you call them. Yeah, like everybody is very much wanting to come up with solutions and work together to get that process together. And that's another reason why this Purple Day, the Purple Ribbon Day is going to be so very important. It's a chance to ask those questions to many of the service providers. Can you tell us a little bit about Purple Ribbon Day? And by the way, before we do that, let me just take an interruption here for a second because folks, you're going to want to grab a piece of paper and a pen. That's just the reality here. You're going to want to know all the details. You're going to want to know about the cat. You're going to want to get the phone numbers and the email addresses or things like that so that you can reach out and perhaps, contribute to the CAP in some way, shape, or form. So I do invite you to go grab your piece of paper now while we're having this conversation. Have it close by. If you're driving down the road, we're going to give that information in about 10 minutes. So find yourself a lovely place to park to write this down. Or you can, of course, check us out on YouTube later on today, and you'll be able to get the information from the bottom of the website. But in the meanwhile, or at the bottom of the YouTube station, I beg your pardon. So meanwhile, sorry, go ahead. I beg your pardon, Joanne. I've had a lot of encore performances in the last little while. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're just listening to me, it's been a while. I've got a little bit of the summertime marble mouth. Forgive me as we continue on with the program. Joanne, tell us a little bit more about Purple
If
Ribbon.
only we could be as well spoken as you.
Oh,
But okay.
you're so sweet.
Um, Cailey is really at the helm of this. But before I turn it over to Cailey, I just want to say that it's started out as an overdose awareness day, and it is the overdose awareness day across BC. I think it might be Canada, but across BC on August 30th. But we like Purple Ribbon Day, and we like holding hope, and our purple ribbons are really significant. So Cailey coordinates with our First Nations group, Cowichan Tribes, and FNHC. to create funding for this event and generally reaches out to all our service providers. So we will have many service providers there. We will have food there, and we're going to have a lot of information. Now, I'll let Cailey dig more deeply in that because it really is her baby and she really does a great job of it.
Sure does, no doubt about it. Cailey.
Thanks. Yes, we began hosting an event on this day about 5 years ago. So it's an international day, International Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st. But then last year, that day fell on a Saturday, and we found it was so successful to be in our busy downtown location near the farmers market on a Saturday that we just decided to do it on the 30th this year. So that's why it's on a different day. But um, yes, so every year we collaborate. Our main partner is Cowichan Tribes. And then, of course, we're always ever so grateful to First Nations Health Authority as well for helping fund the event. And then we have a little budget ourselves through our community action team. So that's how it comes to be, or yeah, came to be. So this year we will be at Charles Hoey Park, downtown Duncan, by the museum and the old train car. And we're there from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so for us, we focus on the present, the past, and the future. So as through the event, you will see what we have in the community for supports. You'll see we'll have a memorial area with a tree where people can hang names. And there's hospice situated next to that area, and they're wonderful helpers and an elder to provide support as well. And then looking to the future. So again, we have our service providers talking about what we can do to help make a change. And then we have a fun art table that adults and kids really like. So there's things for all ages. We have our free barbecue lunch beginning at 12, which was a hit last year. And yeah, if people can come for 11, that's a nice time to arrive because we will have the drummers and dancers opening.
Yes.
Your speaker and an elder opening the day for us as well. So it's a nice way to start off.
So, so for the event itself, I just want to repeat the Charles Haley Park. And so is that big open green space that is just right by the trains, or is it a little further over? And tell us a little bit about parking and etc.
Yes, so it is right. So there's Trunk Road and then Canada Avenue and Duncan Avenue. So it is right between in that kind of rectangle, big open grassy area. And I actually need to double check. I think that on weekdays, it's a 2-hour free parking, but I think on weekends, perhaps it's unlimited. But I know for sure you'll have the 2-hour free parking anyways.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And there is parking all along the back there and along the streets and the side streets. I think you're right. I think that on Saturdays and Sundays there is free parking in the area, but I'm not 1,000% sure. I mean, even if it is, it's not a lot for parking. It's quite reasonable.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. And so at this park in the memorial area with the drummers and everything else, is there an opportunity to even meet some of the peers? Will some of the peers be there to answer questions that people have? And also, is because I would imagine that there are a lot of people that have a lot of questions and they don't know what to ask. They're not sure that they don't know what they don't know, if that makes any sense.
Yes. So there are a few different ways that hopefully we can engage with folks who are curious. And so one is, yes, if you're wanting to speak to some of our fantastic cat peers, we will have a cat table set up, excuse me, where peers will be running that table and also doing naloxone training at that table, but they love to talk and answer questions. We also will likely have a peer and another volunteer as well at the welcoming table. And then we usually have one of our peer workers helping with the art table. So lots of chances for conversation there. And then as far as being curious and maybe not even knowing what questions to ask, we're going to be doing something that we began last year that was really helpful for, I think, getting people to check out every single table. And that was a little information scavenger hunt. So when you come to the event, you can pick up a card at the front table and it has a little question, and you have to visit each table to have that question answered. It might be in the display somewhere, or you might have to ask a person at the table and they'll stamp your card. And we have a beautiful gift basket or two that you can enter to win.
Oh, good.
Last year, yeah, they were really lovely baskets last year. So definitely do that when you come through. And lastly, we are going to have a pharmacist this year who's hosting a table to talk about different types of medical interventions. And so it's not medical advice, but if people are curious about what's out there, they're going to be there to answer any questions. And they're also going to have some questions up there in case you don't even know what you want to ask. They're making a big board so you can say, I am curious about this one actually. And so there's going to be a chance to discuss some of those topics. And lastly, we're also having last year, the barbecue was kind of just, grab something in and move along. This year, we're having a sitting area.
Oh, great.
Yes, and there'll be some conversation starters on the table as well. So one more opportunity to come sit, be together, and maybe even learn something as well.
I think that's just brilliant. I think that it's so important that people have an opportunity to learn, and what a great day to learn. Now, the event you said is August the 30th or July 30th? July 30th, right?
Sorry, August 30th.
August 30th. Ah,
Saturday, August 30th. Yes.
that's great. For some reason I thought we were having the CAT team was having an event on at the end of July as well. Is that a mistake on my part? It could very well be.
Yes, I can't think of anything.
No,
I
that
think
it's August. That's
you
great.
have so much on your plate. I think, yeah, maybe
Oh,
just
you know
there's a
what?
cross.
I think we all do, especially when we're in the planning stages of things. There's so many important dates. And the good news about Act Three is we try to bring to the community everything that's going on. And I probably have just made an error as to the what's and the wherefores. But having said that, because when I opened the show, I did say happening this week. So just so we're clear, August the 30th is when this event is going to happen. And therefore, we will likely show this not only today, this fabulous Monday, but we'll also probably encore closer to the date to make sure that more people get a chance to hear it as well. So that's an important thing for us to be able to do to get the message out there. It is summertime. People are always so busy. People are camping. People are doing all kinds of things. However, I did also tell people to pull over to the side of the road so that they could take the information from you. So I wonder if you could tell people, how do people find out more information about not only this event, but also the CAT as an overall conversation?
Hmm.
Okay, so my email address is a little bit long, but it works. It's Johanne, Johanne .f.Kemmler, Kemmler, at gmail.com. So that's the email they can ask and request information, and I'll pass it on to whoever that information needs to go to. Our CAT, we have on our Cowichan's Health Network is a tab that has our CAT and a whole bunch of information on it. So you can just go and look it up there. And I think on social media, Cailey, what is our titles on social media?
So I was just pulling up the Our Cowichan website because I want to make sure you can get that. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't type it. But for our social media, we are on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So on any of those platforms, you can search Cowichan Community Action Team and it will come up. It is also linked from our tab on the Our Cowichan website, which I'm just pulling that up right now, Our Cowichan Health Network.
The Our Cowichan Health Network, by the way, is just really a tremendous website for anyone who's interested in learning about what's going on in Cowichan. I got to tell you, the Our Cowichan Network is just really a very, very impactful and fantastic website to gain information. And you can find that, Cailey.
It's our OUR and then CCHN.ca.
.ca. So Cowichan for short, CCHN.ca. And Purple Ribbon Day will be a part of that as well. So you'll be able to find all that information from there. I'm just going to take a moment to repeat that because I want to make sure that people have the email address for Johanne. So it's Johanne, Johanne dot F as in Frank, dot Kemmler, Kemmler at gmail.com. Or of course, go to our Cowichan at our.cchn.ca. Check us out on social media, Instagram, Cowichan Community Action Team. Google it. You will be able to find the information for sure. I also just want to take a moment to say, there are a lot of people within our communities, regardless of where you live on Vancouver Island. And this show goes basically right down into Duncan and all the way up to about the beginning of the Comox Valley and then over to the Sunshine Coast. And what's really important about this particular event, I think, and why people should attend it and know about it, is because every single person that is going through this situation in their lives, whether it's a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a grandmother, a grandfather, there's a lot of people that care about these people. And we often have questions that we don't really know how to get answers for. This is a great opportunity to have your questions answered. There's so much that's available to us as support if only we ask the questions. And I think that this is a really great opportunity for you to plan a trip to Duncan, enjoy what all of the Cowichan Valley has to offer, and at the same time those pieces that you worry about, you might be able to get a little bit of help from some of the incredible people that are working in the Cowichan Valley that can help you find some resources within the community. And Cowichan is great at sharing. That's the one thing. It's share, 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 as is all of the communities on Vancouver Island and on the Sunshine Coast. So really do yourself a favor and get to know what's happening in the Cowichan Valley. Perhaps we might be able to help somebody you love. Um, there are so many people, Cailey and Joanne, that that know someone. I think they say that 6 degrees of separation or 7 degrees of separation. And I'm also to understand that just about every family is touched by this in some way or another, right? So how can we demystify this? Purple Ribbon Day is a great way to do it, but how are some of the other ways that we can really be there in support of people that are living or experiencing this very difficult road?
Well, one of the ways, and it's not just in the Cowichan Valley, is the Mum Stop the Harm
Yes.
advocacy group that is across Canada. If you go to the Mum Stop the Harm website, there are two venues you can find yourself going into, and one is called Healing Hearts, and it's for families and loved ones who've lost people due to the opioid crisis.
Yeah.
And there's support groups all across the island and across BC for that particular event, which is it's fantastic. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And then we also have another slot in Mum Stop the Harm, and it's called Holding Hope. We actually have a live Holding Hope group here in Duncan.
Oh,
And I
wow.
know there's more on the island as well, but in there you can find the connection to send an email to Duncan's Holding Hope, or you can send an email to me because I happen to facilitate the group. But Holding Hope is just a place where those who have loved ones who are actively struggling with active addiction can meet. And there's no stigma and there's no judgment. And nobody's saying, well, if you'd raised them correctly, you wouldn't be in this position. Or, oh, you must not have given your husband enough love for him to be using drugs when you're not home. Or whatever the stigma and the terrible conversations that come up, there's a really, really safe place to get peer support and just to be heard. And it's not near as scary when you realize you're not alone.
Yeah, I love that concept to be able to come because it's true. Those are the voices the stories that we tell ourselves when we're living with someone or around someone with people with addiction. I think that it's very important that we understand it's not the fault of anyone to
No.
find themselves in this. And people, as it is, I think that we all carry a big, heavy stick all the time, and we beat ourselves with it, as much as possible when we know that someone is going through something, right? And it's a very difficult place to be when you're doing that. So places like Stop the Harm is a really good option for people to get information.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
then, yes, it's a great information channel and it'll help your heart a little.
Yeah, it will. It'll help your heart a lot. There
Mhm.
was also, I don't know if we did this in Cowichan, but I know that there was a movement for a while that had the Purple Bench Project. Do you guys remember the Purple Bench Project? Did you hear about it?
I
No.
remember it. Yeah, we don't have one here.
Oh, okay.
We will soon be having a memorial wall, and we have our purple chair that we bring to events. But
Nice.
the bench didn't quite, yeah, didn't quite go. I was thinking though, from your question um, about ways that we can support people, a couple of more subtle things came to mind is just that when we are careful with our language and not using stigmatizing language, we can send a message to those around us that we're a safe person that maybe they could talk to, and we can also let people know that we are someone who will listen without judgment, so they can feel a little bit safer, perhaps, to come forward about something they're struggling with. Also, for those who are trained in the lock zone, we've
Yeah.
heard that they have a little clip you can hang it on your bag, or you might have it in your purse or your first aid kit. But when someone sees that, it tells them that you care and they're wanting to keep someone alive who's using substances. And then lastly, we have these pins to share at our event that say, I love someone who uses drugs. So lots of little ways to send out the message that lets people know that you're a safe person, and that people care.
There's a lot of support that's out there for people if they take the time to look, or if they just come to an event like this where they can learn some of the other resources, because it is surprising how many people really need to have that extra support and a safe place. It's so important that we talk about the language. And so I just like to expand on that, if you don't mind, a little bit, Cailey, because it's true. And people often don't know that they're using language that's incorrect or that doesn't show them to be safe people. And so I wonder if we can give some examples of that to really kind of help that conversation move along. I know it's a hard one too.
Well, I'm thinking, yeah, just there's always a lot of, I guess, nuance, or there's gray areas who you're talking to,
Sure.
because I mean, some things it's just plain not nice to call a person a junkie or something
Oh,
like
of
that.
course.
You
That's a great
Yeah,
example because people use that all the time, right?
yeah, exactly. It's kind of
Very
dehumanizing.
much.
But then other times, and this is one where it can kind of go either way, because some of our peer team who have gone through um, and gone through recovery, they use this term and they're comfortable with it. But for us to call someone else, to say that they're clean, they've gone through treatment and they're clean, it kind of implies that people who haven't are dirty. So you
Right.
not use that word. But if someone wants to say it about themselves, that's their choice. But that's one that's kind of iffy as well. Just little things that we hear so often we don't think about. Um, Gosh, what else? Just calling a person an addict, I guess. It's another just kind of title on that person. Um,
I think that these are very important conversations, and they're difficult conversations to have. You know, I come from an era where and I don't mind being transparent about this, and not to be voyeuristic on other people's lives or have people being voyeuristic into mine. I was exposed to drugs for the very first time when I was 5 years old. So we're talking about probably the late 60s, very, very early 70s. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my older sister was considerably older. She was like 15 years older than I. We had quite a extended family. And the very first time that I saw someone put a needle in their arm was my sister. And I didn't, at 5 years old, have a clue how to understand what was going on. I didn't know what was happening, and it's just an image that I still remember many, 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 many years later. Um, I know that my mother was not at fault. I know that, our family was a supportive, loving family, like many. Um, I don't think my sister knew really at that time what was happening to her. I think she was part of a group of people that thought back in the day that this was an enjoyable experience. Um, and unfortunately, her life came to a grinding halt as the addiction took over her. And the consequence is that I lost my sister. And so I think that, when we look at how things happen, people try their best in families to keep people together. We try to find reasons, we try to find solutions, we try to find answers. Sometimes there just aren't any. And so we need to learn how to cope with those other components to it. Language, back when I was young, my sister would have been called a junkie, full stop. Um, we are learning in this last 2 decades even how to talk better to each other on every number, and I mean every number. Purposefully, I'm using that term, of things that are happening with community. We're trying to stop dehumanizing people. We're trying to find the right words, and they're evolving all the time. And so I think it's important that we as adults learn and be open to learning new ways to be present with each other and to be open with each other. And so I'm not sharing that story for any reason, but to say that it happens to a lot of people that don't expect it. My family was as good of a family as every other family out there. And the tremendous loss that came with that, I think is something that sits hard for so many. And then I think that sitting back and holding space for people to share their story is really vital. Sometimes people just need to be heard. Joanne?
And Kathy, what you're saying there, I'm sorry about your sister. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
So many people who have loved ones who are struggling are dying. They
Yeah.
don't want to tell people. They're embarrassed and they're ashamed. And oh, my brother had a heart attack, or oh, my son's just in Ontario,
Yeah.
or it's really, really stigmatizing to have a family member in active addiction or dying from an opioid crisis.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. They go through it alone,
They do.
so alone, because they don't know who to talk to or who to share with. And it's terrible. It's a
You're
terrible thing.
absolutely right. I think that so many people do it. And I don't think it's changed in all these years. I don't think it's changed. I think that, in my opinion, we're much more open, but I don't think it's changed. I think that there's a lot of people, not everybody, but there's a lot of people. I mean, I'm over 60 now, and I'm talking about something that happened when I was 5 years old. As an adult now, I can look back on that as a memory, but most people don't know about that in my story. And it's not something that you easily share. And the only reason I'm sharing it today isn't, as I said, for people to be voyeuristic, but to recognize that it can be any family. It
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
any family. And we're not all removed from things, whether they happened years ago or they're happening in
Yeah.
this moment. Yeah. Yeah.
And the more people are willing to share, and thank you again for sharing, the more others will open their mouths and share too. My husband and I, we have a son who is in active addiction and currently living on the streets. And it's amazing when I say that to somebody, for whatever reason it comes up. Well, what do your kids do? Well, I have a couple doing things and I have a couple doing different things, or one doing different things. But I would say 8 out of 10 times the response is, oh, well, my cousin's on the streets too, or oh, my brother died of an overdose, or oh, it has affected so many families. It is a crisis and it's out there. And if we can all share and open up those things, we'll realize we're not alone and it's something we have to do something about.
Absolutely, 1,000%. And I likewise am sorry that you're experiencing that. I think that we go back to that little button, right? That the Cailey and I were talking about a few moments ago. I love someone who, what does it read again? What does it say? Cailey, you'll have to read it out. Remember
Yes,
where we
I
go.
love someone who uses
I
drugs.
love someone who uses drugs. And I know that many people are ashamed of sharing that information, and there's no shame in that. Cailey, you work with people all the time and you work with stigma all the time. I'm curious about some ways that we can stigma bust. What are some of the things do you think that we could do to help stigma bust?
Mm.
I'm coining a new word,
Yeah.
stigma bust.
I like it. Really like it.
Yeah, I think just like the more we know, the more we can kind of recognize when something is being shared that is incorrect. And so we can gently kind of redirect um with ourselves, our social circles. And also a big one is on the internet. And I know it can be a big scary place,
Yeah.
but we see things a lot that are posted, and sometimes it is just completely off base and something that's untrue. And so if someone's comfortable with doing so, maybe some gentle correction with a link to, a reputable source. I think just when we're able just to call it out when we see it, and kindly, because we don't want to be, making things worse and causing big fights.
I like how you said kindly. I think that everything that is worth listening to starts with kindness. Everything that's worth listening to starts with kindness. Every amount of change that we can create out there to stigma bust is about being kind and holding judgment where it belongs over a fire pit somewhere. That means, like let it go because people don't react to anger and frustration. People react to kindness. They react to, if someone is trying to force something down somebody's throat, they don't hear it. Like people just don't hear it. But if we come to it from a point of kindness and education and come to the place where we're curious and open-minded and kind, I think we can get quite a long way in getting the message across that this crisis is happening to all of us, to all of our kids, to our families and our friends, or someone we know, someone we love. And we wouldn't be that critical if it was someone we loved, right? Why are we so critical to community?
And that's one other way too, actually, that can, um, I suppose a little bit indirectly, but it does myth bust as well, is when our peer leaders or peer members come and do public speaking and they share their
Mm.
stories. People are often very moved and surprised by what folks have been through. When you see where they are now, you wouldn't guess that. And so, like for one gal, I'm thinking of um, who's just fantastic. And people are always, people tear up when she shares her journey, and we always talk about it together. That isn't it interesting how you're so valued, but at a certain point in time when you were dragging your broken suitcase down the highway, you weren't. At least you weren't treated that way. People didn't see you, recognize you as being um, as mattering quite as much. And so by sharing the peer journeys, are hopefully helping people recognize how much every single person does matter wherever they are in their life. And so our peers, if you're local, are happy to come and speak. We've shared to students, different businesses in town, RCMP events, different things, small things, big things, the library. We just come and the peer leaders share their journey. And sometimes we'll do a naloxone training if people are wanting that. And that's a fantastic way to myth bust and get people to recognize um, how much every person matters.
Yeah, I think that every person matters is probably the most important phrase that we could ever put out there. Because we all do. Every single person on this planet is a gift to all of us. It's somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's mom, somebody's friend, somebody, and we all matter, undoubtedly. For those people that don't know, and I know that that's probably a smaller audience at this point, or I'm suggesting it might be a smaller audience, is we hear the word naloxone a lot, but a lot of people don't really know what it is. And so I think it would be prudent for us to help talk about a little bit about naloxone and what it can do and why people should be trained on it.
Sure. So you might have heard naloxone or Narcan. Same thing, just one is a brand name, one is generic. And that is a medication where it blocks the opioid receptors and it does nothing else. It simply blocks those receptors. And so the reason why it's important is because if someone has taken a substance and either taken too much or taken something and it had, what they weren't expecting in it, and they go into an overdose, they can we administer the naloxone and they can actually come back out of that. So it's quite amazing to see. There are two different ways to administer it. Well, there are more, but we have access to two ways. One is intramuscular, so with a syringe going into a muscle. And the other way is nasal naloxone. So it's a spray that goes into each nostril. And we are able to access the syringe naloxone for free at many pharmacies, whereas the nasal naloxone can be quite pricey to purchase. Although if you are Indigenous, First Nations Health Authority does have them for free. So you can access it through First Nations Health Authority for nasal naloxone or purchase it. And so we offer those trainings. They're quick, they're easy. I know that a syringe can be intimidating, but we let people, we have the little vials, but instead of having medication, just has water inside, so they can open it, draw up the medication, and practice on a ball, pressing down. And then the needle itself retracts inside, so you don't have to worry about poking yourself after you've given someone the medication. So if you practice that a few times, it's not as scary as it looks. It's actually quite straightforward. It's just getting the medication, getting it in a muscle, doing that perhaps a couple of times. And if you're still not comfortable with that, even just carrying it, and if you come to be in a place where someone needs it, you can offer it to be used at that point in time. And maybe you can be the one calling 911 on the phone instead. So we do encourage people to carry it or at least keep it as a part of your first aid kit.
Yeah.
And we're trying to normalize it, just like, like when you go to do your first aid training, they now include naloxone training as well. So that's helping to normalize it as well. It's just something you can keep on hand in case you need it. And it won't do anything else to a person other than just block those receptors.
Yeah, and save lives actually is what it really
Exactly. Yeah.
does, is it saves lives when necessary. And I know that it is intimidating for sure, but I sort of like to think of this the same way I would with anybody who has an allergy to bees or an allergy to something else. And while the syringe looks a little bit different, it's the same thing as you're saving someone's reaction to whatever it is. And in this case, it's the opioid. So it might be a little bit easier to digest the concept if we realize it's like, if you wouldn't hesitate to help somebody who is having a bee sting, it's a similar kind of concept, right? Yeah, yeah. Um, and the naloxone training will be available at the Purple Ribbon event. So another reason for people to go. I carry naloxone with me all the time. And I hope that I never have to use it, but it sure is nice to know that if I have to, that it's there. Does it expire, by the way? Does anybody know if it expires and also the difference between doing the nasal, if somebody is really having a hard time, are they able to get that smell quickly into their system, or is there one better way or another, or what do you think?
Well, for the first part of the question, sorry, what was the first part? I remember thinking I should answer the first one first, and then I forgot what it was.
Expiry.
Expiry date.
Oh, yes. So, okay, thank you. So every kit does have an expiry date on it. And so I've spoken to the pharmacies, what would you like us to do with these? And they said, just throw the medication out, recycle what you can recycle. If you do have a kit, and you're in an emergency and you realize, oh no, it's expired,
Yes.
you can still go ahead and try it because what happens is they just kind of slowly lose their potency. It's not something that's going to harm someone.
That's
And
very
then,
important. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's better than nothing if that's what you have. But you can, yeah, once it's past that date, you can get rid of it and go grab a new kit. And then as for the administering the medication, there are pros and cons to both methods. The nasal naloxone isn't effective if the person has consumed the substance through their nose because it could be blocked in there.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind, I guess, for people. Although these days, I think that they say smoking is the most common method. Depends on, I guess, yeah, what a person is doing because there are many different ways. But it does, because it goes in through the nasal passage, it feels a lot stronger as well. And so people do report when they come back, when they come back around feeling really terrible as they're put into a withdrawal right away.
Yes,
And
yes,
so
for
that's
sure.
one thing to keep in mind. I still carry that one as well, just because it's so fast and easy to use. I'm thinking I just want them to be alive.
Agreed.
But yeah,
The easier, the better when it
yes.
comes to doing that.
Yeah.
These questions are many questions that you can answer at Purple Ribbon Day. I'm hoping that will happen for our listeners. We're just about at the end of the show, and I first of all want to tell you both how much I value you and appreciate all the work that you do in the Cowichan Valley. And this work is so important. It's so vital, and to know that you two are doing the kind of work that you're doing out there is a true gift to the communities. And so thank you so much for that. As we go, two things I want to do. Number one, as I want to make sure, Joanne, could you give the information on how people can get you one more time?
Sure. So you can get me at my email, Johanne, Johanne .f.Kemmler @gmail.com.
Perfect. And Cailey, can you tell us how do people get us on social media and our couch and all that good stuff?
Yes, absolutely. So if you are able, please visit. So our Cowichan Health Network, the website is OurCCHN.ca, and you will see a tab that says CAT. And from there, you'll have a link to our Instagram, our Facebook, some of our past projects. And if you simply search Cowichan Community Action Team, I think that way as well, you will find us you'll find our Facebook page, our Instagram account, and our TikTok.
Fantastic. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is we have about a minute each, and I can't go over that, or our station manager is going to give me the one too. And so, just very, very quickly, if you could imbibe something in our community, each of you, as an important takeaway, beyond going to the event, what would that takeaway look like for you? What would you want the community to know as a piece of wisdom?
I would like the community to know as a piece of wisdom that everybody who is struggling is important and has had part of their life not struggling, and use compassion and kindness, please. Just be compassionate.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Cailey?
Fantastic message. I think that I would just say there are many ways to support people who are struggling, and sometimes it's not always right on the front lines. It might be supporting youth programs or volunteering or just advocating, sending a letter, different places asking for more resources. But it doesn't have to be, um, directed substance use. I think healthy communities involves so much more. And that big picture also helps people who might in their future struggle with substance use or who are currently struggling or who have struggled. It's just creating that culture, I guess, a good community with lots of supports. So yeah, even coaching youth activities, everything helps to keep people healthy and safe.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for being on Act Three. I just feel like such a privilege to work with both of you, and I'm grateful that you came on the program today. That does it for this episode of Act Three on CHLY 101.7 FM. If you want to make sure that you are at this event, go check out what the information that we have already given. If you're watching this on YouTube, it will be in the chat box below. Enjoy us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and don't forget to watch our television program on Rogers Cable 4. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time on Act 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.